What major prophet was born into a dysfunctional family? It was the major prophet Samuel. Listen to this intro and let's get right into this video. When God gives you that peace, you will rest in His security, His protection, His comfort, His love. Welcome back, guys, to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the major prophet Samuel, who was born into a dysfunctional family. Israel has been ruled by judges for over 200 years. Eli and Samuel are the last of those judges. Samuel is born near the end of Eli's life. He grows up in the tabernacle as a priest in training. Eli is well qualified to serve Israel both as priest and judge. Although the nation had fallen away from God, it is clear that God is preparing Samuel from the very beginning to lead the nation back to the right living. God is always in control. He is able to bring his people back to him. Let's get right into this video. Samuel's birth and childhood. Elkanah and his family. There was a man named Elkanah who lived in Ramah in the region of Zuph in the hill country of Ephraim. He was the son of Jeroham, son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, son of Zuph of Ephraim. Elkanah had two wives, Hannah and Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah did not. Each year, Elkanah would travel to Shiloh to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of Heaven's army at the tabernacle. The priests of the Lord at the time were the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas. On the days Elkanah presented his sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to Peninnah and her children, and each of her children. He would give portions of the meat to Peninnah and each of her children. And though he loved Hannah, he would give her only one choice portion. Because the Lord had given her no children, so Peninnah would taunt Hannah and make fun of her because the Lord had kept her from having children. Year after year, it was the same. Peninnah would taunt Hannah. As they went to the tabernacle, each time Hannah would be reduced to tears and would not even eat. "Why are you crying, Hannah?" Elkanah would ask. Why are you not eating? Why be downhearted just because you have no children? You have me. Isn't that better than having 10 sons? Hannah's prayer for a son. Once after the sacrificial meal of Shiloh, Hannah got up and went to pray. Eli the priest was sitting at his customary place beside the entrance of the tabernacle. Hannah was in deep anguish, crying bitterly as she prayed to the Lord. And she made this vow: "O Lord of Heaven's army, if you will look upon my sorrow and answer my prayer and give me a son, then I will give him back to you. He will be yours for his entire lifetime. And as a sign that he has been dedicated to the Lord, his hair will never be cut." As she was praying to the Lord, Eli watched her, seeing her lips moving but hearing no sound. He thought she had been drinking. "Must you come here drunk?" he demanded. "Throw away your wine." "Oh, no, sir," she replied. "I haven't been drinking wine or anything stronger, but I am very discouraged. I was pouring out my heart to the Lord. Don't think that I am the wicked woman, for I have been praying out of great anguish and sorrow." "In that case," Eli said, "go in peace. May the God of Israel grant the request you have asked him." "Oh, thank you, sir," she exclaimed. Then she went back and began to eat again, and she was no longer sad. Verse 19, Samuel's birth and dedication. The entire family got up early the next morning and went to worship the Lord once more. Then they returned home to Ramah. When Elkanah slept with Hannah, the Lord remembered her plea, and in due time she gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, for she said, "I asked the Lord for him." The next year, Elkanah and his family went on their annual trip to offer a sacrifice to the Lord and to keep his vow. But Hannah did not go. She told her husband, "Wait until the boy is weaned. Then I will take him to the tabernacle and leave him there with the Lord permanently. Whatever you think is best." Elkanah agreed. "Stay here for now, and may the Lord help you keep your promise." So she stayed home, nursed the boy until he was weaned. When the child was weaned, Hannah took him to the tabernacle in Shiloh. They brought along a 3-year-old bull for the sacrifice in a basket of flour and some wine. After sacrificing the bull, they brought the boy to Eli. Sir, do you remember me? Hannah asked. I am the very woman who stood here several years ago praying to the Lord. I asked the Lord to give me this boy, and he has granted my request. Now I am giving him to the Lord, and he will belong to the Lord his whole life. And they worship the Lord there. That is God's holy word. I want you to, as we go through and break down these words, and we break down these verses, and we break down this particular chapter, I want you to pay particular attention to the sin that was in this family, like bigamy, jealousy, helplessness, hopelessness, deep sorrow, stress, brokenhearted, anguish and frustration, depression and loneliness, degradation and humiliation. We will go down and we will look at these verses and be able to see how God was able to do amazing things in this family's life from one child that was born. Without further ado, let's get right into this. So we'll be breaking down verses 1 to 2. And as we see in verses 1 to 2, the family into which Samuel was born, his parents was carnal, polygamous, who conformed to the culture of their day. So what does that mean, carnal and polygamous? They were people of the world. They didn't necessarily have a religion, but they followed the cultures of the day. He had two wives and he was married, and he was someone that didn't necessarily have a functioning religion. The father, Elkanah, a priest with no apparent religion function. We know that he didn't have a religious function because in 1 Chronicles chapter 6 verse 34 it says that, and it proves that. Also, what we learned from verses 1 to 2, the two wives of Elkanah, Hannah had no children and Peninnah had children. She did. But what we do notice is that we don't know that how many children Peninnah had. So if we move down to verses 3 to 8, we'll see the deep sorrow and broken heart of Samuel's mother, Hannah. She was helpless, hopeless, and in anguish and in agony. This family was devout, but they were also carnal and was polygamous. However, they did make their annual trip to Shiloh to worship the Lord of hosts. In church, we normally say, I'm looking at my notes and my note says Lord of hosts. But in church, we say, Holy, holy, the Lord God of hosts. We say the Lord God of hosts. But we do know that they actually traveled on a continuous basis. And we see that in Exodus chapter 34, verse 23, Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 5 to 7, and Luke chapter 2, verse 41. In Exodus chapter 34, verse 23, it reads, 3 times each year, every man in Israel must appear before the sovereign, the Lord, the God of Israel. Also in Deuteronomy, rather you must seek the Lord your God at the place of worship he himself will choose from among all the tribes, the place where his name will be honored. There you will bring your burnt offerings, your sacrifice and your tithes, your sacred offerings, your offerings to fulfill a vow, your voluntary offerings, and your offerings of the firstborn animal of your herd and flock. There you and your family will feast in the presence of the Lord your God, and you will rejoice in all you have accomplished, because the Lord of your God has blessed you. Also in Luke chapter 2, verse 41, and it also reads, every year Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the Passover festival. So we see that as well. Moving on, the family was deeply divided, and we see that in the family's meal at the end of the feast. Elkanah always gave a double portion of meat to Hannah because he especially loved her. Peninnah, the rival wife, mocked and provoked Hannah because she was favored and childless. Peninnah taunted Hannah continuously, especially at the annual festival, irritated Hannah until she broke out in tears and could not even eat. Elkanah attempted to console and comfort Hannah, but was unsuccessful. The answer to the distressful circumstances of Samuel's mother, she prayed and trusted in God, and we see that in verses 9 to 18. Hannah's bitter misery peaked at one of the festivals, causing her to rush to the tabernacle. Hannah's intense weeping and silent prayer. Hannah's vow to the Lord of God of hosts, requested that the Lord give her a son. Back in those times, it was very important that women bear children. It was disgraceful. It was a sin. It was looked at as not necessarily a sin, but it was looked unfavorable because women were to bear children back in those times. So it was very important for a woman to bear children. It was a woman's duty, and some women were looked at as they were cursed. They were cursed by God. That's why they were unable to bear children. So she was humiliated. She was frustrated. She dealt with hopelessness and helplessness, deep sorrow down in her. However, Hannah's intense weeping and silent prayer, Hannah's vow to the Lord, the God of hosts, requested that the Lord give her a son. She promised to give the son back to the Lord, to serve the Lord as a Nazarite. Hannah's being misunderstood and condemned. Eli, the high priest, saw her distressful behavior and wrongly concluded that she was drunk. Eli protested against her behavior at the tabernacle. We see that. Hannah's clarification, she denied that she was drunk. She declared that she was pouring her soul out to the Lord. Instead, that she was not wicked, that she was praying out in great anguish and in sorrow. Hannah's assurance and peace of heart. Eli asked God to grant Hannah's prayer. We see that as well. Hannah experienced a deep-seated assurance and confidence, peace of heart. She was happy. She was able to go back home and eat again. She was not worried anymore. God gave her that peace, and Eli definitely prayed for her peace and prayed for her request to be granted. She received that deep-seated confidence and assurance and peace of heart. We also move down to verses 19 and 20. What we see here is the results of a prayer and faith of Samuel's mother, which is Hannah. God heard and healed her affliction, gave her a son, prophet Samuel. The Lord remembered Hannah's prayer. The son was born and was named Samuel. The faithfulness of Samuel's mother. She nursed the child and kept their promise to dedicate our prophet Samuel to the Lord. She was committed to diligently weaning the child. Above all else, even above attending the annual festival, she made sure that she took care of that child, to turn that child over to the Lord, to be raised in the church. She was committed to fulfilling her promise. She informed her husband that the child will be dedicated to the Lord right after she weaned him off. She was supported by her husband in her decision to dedicate Samuel and give him up to the Lord. She dedicated Samuel to the Lord's service. She took the baby Samuel to the tabernacle after he was weaned. What did she do? She also took a bull, a half bushel of flour, and some wine for the dedication service. She had the bull presented to the Lord. She and her husband then took Samuel to Eli, the high priest. She reminded Eli of her agony, praying for a child some years earlier. She demonstrated the selfless devotion to God. She gave Samuel to the Lord to serve the Lord during his whole lifetime. We see that in this, we see the bigamy, we see that bigamy, we see jealousy. We seen how Penina treated her. We see how Hannah was helpless. She was hopeless. She was with deep sorrow and stress. She was brokenhearted. She was in anguish. She cried every time they went. I know that she was frustrated, and we can see by her not eating that she was depressed. And even though she had children around her, she had Penina around her, and her husband Elkanah loved her, she still felt lonely. She still felt degraded. She was humiliated around other people that seen that she did not have a child. But God was able to help her, heard her cry, heard her agony, her fervent prayer in that tabernacle, and did not forget about her, and made a way for her to have children. More importantly, made a way for her to give birth to the major prophet Samuel. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and God bless your family.